Want to live more spiritually aware? Then turn on your observer. Hey guys, it's I, John, here in my living room on a beautiful cold morning. It is 47 degrees outside here in Akron, Ohio, and I'm drinking a warm cup of coffee on the verge of hot. And I love that feeling of a cool, brisk day and a nice warm mug of coffee. It's lovely. Living spiritually aware. Um, and I like the term spiritually aware as opposed to awakened or enlightened. Aware. It's a greater awareness. We start to look at our world from a perspective of we are creating our experience, as are everyone else we interact with. And when we become spiritually aware in our world, which means we're not ending our experience at our skin, we're actually aware of all that's going on around us. We're aware. The people who step into this awareness are the ones who start to observe the world. They start to see what other aspects of the world are doing. When you look at our collective world, our collective consciousness, we're in the oneness of God, but when you look at this collective consciousness, we're all processing within this one substance, which we call atoms or matter or the image of God, or it's this one giant collective energy. Now we know it's an energy scientifically because atoms, which everything is made of, including you, are just an energy event in motion, according to Einstein, right? So we know that everything is this one mass of energy in this illusion of belief that we live in. But as we start to observe other people in their own expressions, we start to become the observer. We start to become the person who's observing how people are experiencing their life, how people are living their life, how people are creating their life. We start to observe, we start to listen to what people are saying and hearing. They're hearing me say something, but they're hearing it through their own filter. So I say something beautiful, like, we can create a loving world, and then somebody else comes back to me and they say something like, you're victim blaming. I'm like, where did that even come from, right? The people who are really broadening that awareness start to realize that they need to listen to people. They need to start to hear and observe what they're doing and saying and how they're acting, and realize that if you're the person who can alleviate the fears in others, you're the person who changes their life experience. Because we process in this illusion through our various levels of fears. Are we defensive? That's a fear. Are we offensive? That's a fear. That's lashing out to protect yourself from a fear. So the observer starts to notice where the fears are and what fears people are having. They're seeing the self-doubt and the self-worth that stem from the fear of not being good enough or not being loved. They start to see all these processes of thought around them, and they become very aware of what people around them are creating. And rather than investing into what they're creating, as the observer, they're not invested in a personal attack from what other people are thinking. They start to let other people's thoughts be their own. And they start to observe, and they say, well, how can I help that person no longer have that fear, that anxiety? How can I help that person realize how powerful they are? How can I help that person find loving relationships in their life? How can I help that person? And it always comes down to being aware and observing them first. I did a video recently on spiritually aware, listen more than they speak. Well, the reason they're listening is because they're observing. They're observing what's going on with the people around them. They're observing what's going on with the governments around them. They're observing, and they're just saying, where are the fears? And when you observe and you step back and you look and you see, if you have two people and one person is an optimist looking at the future as something great, and one person is just saying how terrible that other person is and how evil they are and how bad they're going to make the life and all that stuff. The observation is one's looking at an optimistic future and one's trying to knock optimism down. And you look at it from that perspective, you start to go, oh, as the observer, I prefer the optimism. I prefer a joyful future, a place where we all work towards each other, right? So I would then, as the observer, would help this person who is struggling with fears and anxieties. I'd help them break free of those fears and anxieties. I'd say, yeah, but we could create a world that's beautiful for you, and you could have all the things you want as well, and we can create this thing without the fears and the anxieties. When you look at it from your personal relationships within your family, you know, I have a sister in Florida who doesn't talk to me, hasn't talked to most of her family for years, but only when she has something scary happening does she actually really reach out to the family. And recently we just had Milton, the hurricane, come across and went right across her house, but she was on the Atlantic coast, so it didn't do too much damage at her property. But um, it was only in those moments where she started reaching out, please pray for me. Please, I'm, in this path of this hurricane. And, you know, I understand that for some reason, she has removed herself from the family. And there has to be a fear-based reaction or fear-based realization or why. She went to Florida to rebuild herself and remake herself as something different, which I respect, completely respect. Now, she doesn't particularly care to talk to me about things. And when that Milton storm was coming across Florida, all I could think was that she's going to be terrified. She's going to be in her house. All I could do was send good intention. But is it really all I could have done? I started making a list of what I would need to go down there to help her rebuild her house or cut up trees. Or I had chainsaws and everything ready to go. I live in Akron, Ohio. She lives in Merritt Island, Florida. Now, for me, it was like that's what you do. You prepare, you go. I'm observing what's going on. What does she need? That's why you start getting ready. Thankfully, I don't have to make that long trip because she didn't have the damage we all thought she was going to get. But as an observer, my job was to observe what she was going through. My job was to not only observe, but then to say, how can I alleviate or help in some way? And being spiritually aware means how can you alleviate the fears and how can you help? And rather than coming charging in and trying to say something or do something that will alleviate them for that second, the spiritually aware look back. They step back and they go, okay, what's the bigger picture here, and how can I show them that they're safe? How can I show them that they're okay? How can I, you know, reflect on them from a place of unconditional love, right? And it does come back to being the observer. It comes back to the idea that you have to step back and remove your own reactions. I jokingly say, be an action hero, not a reaction zero. That's what this is about. That's what this video is about. It's about being an action hero instead of a reaction zero. Not living in the reaction of the stimulus of this illusion, but choosing to be the impetus of change, or the impetus of beautiful expressions in life, the impetus of a new fearless future. But it all starts with observing what is here now. In the words of Yoda, "Ooh, named must your fears be, before banish them you can." Right? Named must your fears be, before banishing them you can. The observer is sitting back and identifying the fears, so the observer can be an assistant in absolving those fears, or removing those fears, um, breaking them out of the experience of that person's life. But it always begins with observing. Named must your fears be, before banish them you can. And that's the important part of this, is the observer. That is the role of the spiritually aware. And that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.